All right, we're going to call this meeting to order. Do I have a motion to move into executive session?
I so move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're going to move into executive session.
Mark it in or
Okay, we're going to go ahead and reconvene the meeting. Item number 1, action taken on discussed in closed meeting. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion. I make a motion to approve, based on legal recommendation, that we pay half of the.
Just authorize?
Just authorize,
Just
follow
authorize
the attorney's
the-
recommendation.
Okay. Authorized based on the attorney's recommendation.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Item 2, general managers. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
We're going to move up.
We're going to move, we're going to change the agenda items.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the item was approved, right?
Yes, item was approved. Thank you, Mayor. I need some help, Mayor.
All right, beginner's luck. You'll be great tonight.
Okay, we're going to move item, which item is it?
14?
Item 14
Up.
up to number 2.
Do you need a motion?
Someone
to
make a
move item
motion to go
14?
out of order.
Do I have a motion to change item 14 to number 2?
I so move.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this item is to consider and approve and to select a consulting engineer to perform work associated with a Texas Water Development Board research pilot plant study for a large-scale seawater desalination demonstration project. Brownsville is one of the 3 shortlisted cities to be considered for a large-scale seawater desalination demonstration project. The Water Development Board has approximately $2.5 million in grants to be used for pilot studies for this project. The feasibility study for our project was performed by Dannenbaum Engineering Corporation and URS Corporation. The Water Development Board is accepting proposals for the pilot study. The proposals are due March 10th, 2006, and the Water Development Board will award funding in April 2006. URS prepared the feasibility study for our project and is here tonight, and I've also requested NRS consulting engineers to submit a proposal tonight before the board. NRS has also performed similar work for the Southwest Regional Water Authority. Both firms are qualified to perform this work. We recommend the board interview URS and NRS consulting engineers tonight and select a firm to assist us with the preparation of the grant application and perform the pilot study. And in your packet is a detailed application which will require assistance from a consultant. We do think we have a good chance of receiving quite a bit of funding for this. One of the things that we need to do in the application is that the state advised us is they're looking for local participation along with the grant. So we need to talk about that and probably have a special meeting before March 10th to submit to see how our proposal would look if we were to contribute any funding towards this project. What I'd like to do tonight, I've got both firms here. URS will go first, have a 15-minute, no more than a 15-minute presentation, and then time for questions. And then NRS will be second, and then both of the firms will leave, and then the board can make a decision on that. So with that, I'll turn it over to URS. Greg?
Thank you, John. While my colleague Dave Bergsteiner is setting up the PowerPoint, I'd like to just start off and talk to you directly. My name is Craig Peterson, as I introduced myself previously. I'm the Regional Water Resource Manager for URS, for Texas.
Could you take the podium, please?
I'm sorry.
The reason being is that they want to get you on camera.
Okay. We're very excited to be here tonight with you all to basically compete for this work. We've been very engaged in the first phase. We've appreciated that opportunity. We'd like to continue this work. In addition to my experience with URS, I believe I've got a unique ability to help you all in this work because of my experience as the executive administrator of the Texas Water Development Board for 11 years, from 1991 through the spring of 2002. In that capacity, been very much engaged in project financing, planning, and technical studies related to work such as this. One of the things that I did want to mention, I've had a long history with the Brownsville PUB, going back to the creation and implementation of the Colonia program. Had the pleasure to work with you all and your predecessors on Cameron Park, Hacienda Gardens, and a number of other projects in this area. Briefly, we're going to go through a quick, and we're going to do this pretty fast because of a limited amount of time. But I want to talk a little bit about the project history first before introducing URS in more detail. This project came out of a call by the governor to do a seawater desal demonstration project. We have participated in all of the steps of this work with you and your staff since the first. We worked on our own dime to help you submit the first proposal. We were successful in being one of the 3 projects selected to do the first phase of that work. As you can see, we produced work that is very, very well received by the client, the Texas Water Development Board, or the funding agency, the Texas Water Development Board. And we started last summer preparing to submit work for you, with you, on behalf of you, and in cooperation with you on a proposed pilot study that we knew were coming down the pipe. Again, we've been a partner with you every step of the way, and certainly look forward to continuing that effort. URS, briefly, not necessarily a household name everywhere in Texas. We are the largest engineering design firm in the United States. We've been ranked #1 for the last 5 years. I think to distill this down, this information, what is important, I believe, for you, is that not only do we have an extensive Texas presence, but we draw on resources from all over the country to help you get the best work, the best technical support for your project. This really overviews our desal experience. On the work that we did with you on Phase 1, we used staff from California, Texas, Florida, and Ohio, and we would continue to use those individuals and more on this project. The range of services that we provide go from feasibility studies all the way to operation and maintenance support should you desire those. So the key point here is that we provide a comprehensive service to you, and we're a highly competent, highly technically based firm. Because potentially this could be a large project that we implemented, we just wanted to give you a flavor of some of the mega buck projects that we've been involved in. We do work, I've personally worked on projects as small as a few $1,000s, but our company has done literally tens of millions and billions of dollar projects throughout this country, throughout the world. I want to talk a little bit about the team structure. We would be the prime on this team. We would work extensively with your staff. There are a number of opportunities for them to be a partner on this work in helping create a more cost-effective project, things such as pilot plant operation. We've already worked with them on environmental issues in the previous phase, financial analysis, and so on. You have 2 fine firms in front of you tonight to talk to. And should it be your desire to look at reaching out to both of those firms, I would also say that we could accommodate that within our team. We think highly of Bill and NRS. We've worked together in the past, and we certainly could do so in the future. Quickly, an org chart, just to show, I'm in the upper left there as the principal in charge. You're going to be hearing from Jeff Edmonds, who's the proposed project manager and was the URS project manager for the first phase. Also, Dave Bergsteiner, who, as you can see in 2 places on this org chart, data analysis, reporting, rural water characterization. Dave was very much involved in the treatment work on Phase 1, and I think you'll hear some unique qualities from him in moving forward on the pilot phase. We have a strong and diverse team. I think the message for this slide is there is a need for alternative water supplies in this part of the world. I think that's no mystery. Desal, seawater desal, can provide some support, significant support in meeting that broad regional need.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
We're competing with Corpus, Freeport, and who else?
Just those three.
Okay, and us, okay.
Yes.
Have you done any presentations for them?
No. We work only with you.
Only with us, okay.
Yes, sir. One of the benefits of having partners not only spreads the cost, but increase the efficiency as well as the utility of this project. More people served means cheaper water for you. We've talked to a number of these entities as part of the work that we did with your staff on Phase 1. It's important to reach out and to have partnerships. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Edmonds. Jeff is our proposed project manager, as I mentioned. He's also our proposed new Corpus Christi office manager. So Jeff would be located just up the road in Corpus Christi. He's going to be assuming those duties in all likelihood during the second calendar quarter of this year. He has extensive experience in water resources, but he also has served as a municipal utility director for utilities. So he brings not just the consultant perspective, but the water resource manager perspective, and I think that gives us a real strength. And so I'm going to ask Jeff to speak to some of these points. Jeff?
Thanks, Craig. I'm going to give you a general overview of the infrastructure and the nuts and bolts of this project. We considered a 25 MGD initial capacity reverse osmosis treatment plant located on property that's vacant currently, owned by the Port of Brownsville. It's a site that gives significant potential to expand if necessary. We also studied all of the environmental aspects and permits that would be required. We felt that there were no fatal flaws with this project moving forward and that all of the required permits could be obtained. We found a location to connect into the PUB system. It's near the intersection of Highway 48 and 511. There's an existing 1 million gallon ground source tank that would be utilized for that purpose. This is a map that shows you where the project is located. It's just east of the fishing harbor there. This is an overall map of the project. Again, there's the treatment plant site on the ship channel. There's two main pipelines coming out of that site. You've got the finished water pipeline that would come in adjacent to Highway 48 and connect into your system there. With a reverse osmosis plant, as I'm sure you know from your involvement with the Southmost plant, there's a byproduct, a waste product of concentrated saline water that would be disposed of offshore in the Gulf. There would be a diffusion array, and we've done dispersion modeling to show that the impact out in the Gulf would be minimal. Now I'd like to turn it over to Dave Bergsteiner. Dave led the treatment plant process design during the feasibility study. He's intimately familiar with the proposed process and the process that we would be proving out as part of this pilot study.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Board, for having us here today. Quickly, I'd like to go through the most key issues with respect to what we did last time in Phase 1 about 2 years ago when we developed a concept design based on a 25 MGD capacity plant. That was the capacity given to us by the Texas Water Development Board as a minimum capacity to look at. There's also the economy of scale issue with 25 MGD being that point where it starts to become economical, at least within a reasonable amount, to start providing water to people at that time. Anything less than that, the escalation of the unit cost would make it prohibitive unless there's some other grant mechanism in place that you can defray those costs. The way we set the facility up is that we can expand it fairly easily to 100 MGD if and when needed. And again, taking into account the economy of scale, that could be very beneficial if you partner with other people in the region. As far as key facilities of the desal plant, we have a protective intake structure from the ship channel We developed that to address all the issues related to the 316B regs for entrainment and impingement. We've designed it so it's fairly simple but very effective in collecting seawater. The second part, which is probably one of the most critical aspects, is the pre-treatment system. The pre-treatment system, based on a desktop analysis, was selected to be a very cost-effective way to make sure that whatever variation in the surface water quality of the shipping channel occurs, that we can deal with that and manage that in such a manner that we provide a consistent feed water to the RO system. I cannot stress enough the importance of a proper pre-treatment system. This is going to be one of the critical issues that we would look at during this next year of piloting. After the pre-treatment system, we go to a reverse osmosis membrane treatment system where we force the salt out of the water and produce our finished water. And subsequently, we do post-treat the water to stabilize it and also to attempt to match the same water quality characteristics that is currently in your existing system. There can be ill consequences of mixing desalinated water with other types of water sources. That's another critical aspect that should be evaluated during the pilot phase, and we're prepared to do that. And finally, there is that brine discharge to the Gulf. Again, further studies do need to be made, but based on our initial feasibility, we anticipate that we can do that without too much issue. Quickly, from the feasibility study, this is the 15% what we call project definition layout of the facility. On the right-hand side is the Brownsville shipping channel, and on the left side is the state highway. I think it's 48. From the shipping channel, we have created a seawater intake structure directly along the bulkhead that will be constructed to protect the site. We have graded the entire site to above the 100-year floodplain to make sure we are not inundated during major storms. Following seawater collection, we go into the pre-treatment system, which is in the center of the site. This is the part that we're going to be focusing a lot of our attention during our piloting. In fact, we have already designed 2 different types of pre-treatment to evaluate. While desktop analysis is a good first step, there's no saying what might really occur during full-scale operation, so we want to actually have 2 options to evaluate pre-treatment because, again, this is the most critical part of the design. If your pre-treatment doesn't work, your RO system will prematurely fail. And I don't know if anybody is familiar with the Tampa Bay desal problems at that plant, but they had some significant problems that caused some major cost overruns and delays in getting water supply to the population. We want to avoid those.
Were you guys involved in that project?
We were not. Thank you for asking. In this big building is our membranes. Membrane for 25 MGD. We can fit it in a few acres of property. If you were to unroll those membranes, you'd be looking at about 80 acres of surface area to desalt the water for 25 MGD. Considerable surface area required, but we can manage it with the RO system that we have developed. After membranes, we go into post-treatment where we stabilize the water and we store it for transmission in this pipe down into your system. This entire facility has been, again, designed to a 15% level. We did take into consideration ancillary items such as site security and a administration facility for the operation of the facility. And by the way, as we go forward in time, if you were to expand this facility, the land that lies to the northeast is there. And on our concept design, if you go to our feasibility study, you'll see basically a mirror imaging of what you see here to attain the 100 MGD. Since last summer, we were anticipating that we would see something coming in from the Texas Water Development Board. We knew that they were looking at going into phase 2, a pilot phase. We have developed about 75-80% of that application process since then. We spent a lot of time thinking about what would be needed on this pilot, and we put a lot of energy and consideration into that. This is one of the graphics whereby this is our desal plant site that we showed on the previous slide with State Road Highway here and Brownsville shipping channel here. We would locate the pilot directly on the bank of the existing shipping channel. And this is the blow-up of the pilot itself with our seawater intake feeding into our pre-treatment system. I won't go into all the details here, but suffice to say, we do have everything set up on a pilot scale to mimic the full-scale plant. We want to test what we have on the concept design to make sure it works. We have 2 different types of pre-treatment we are going to evaluate, and we are going to make sure that we pilot this for at least 1 year because there is seasonal variations that occur. We want to make sure we capture those so we don't make any mistakes before we go into full-scale implementation. Again, very important to do. And this was designed specifically for this site. While there are some commonalities between different pilot tests, You have got to make sure that you look at the site-specific conditions and design your pilot accordingly. And that's what URS has done already and is ready to submit the proposal to the Texas Water Development Board. That concludes my portion of the presentation. I'd like to hand it back over to Craig now.
I guess in summary, I'd like to say that I hope that you detect the enthusiasm that we have, the interest that we have in working with you and continuing to work with you and your staff, that this is a project that we believe is important, that we believe in. We believe we've gone the extra mile in trying to do our part in making this a success and more. We believe that because of the strong relationships that we have, the strong technical capabilities we have, the history that we gave you a flavor of on the project, and our desire to move forward and give you the best possible service, we would hope that you would see that as advantages for our team and as reason to select us going forward. We believe that we can help you in the very short time you have to put together a first-rate application. And just as importantly, we think we can help you, we know we can help you in producing a quality study, and perhaps even, should you deem it appropriate, to take this to the final phase of implementation at an appropriate time. We believe we have the skills, we believe we have the knowledge to help you in that regard. We thank you very, very much for your time and for your attention, and hopefully we look forward to working with you going down the road. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We've got time for some questions from the board if they have any.
I just have a question. Is Dannenbaum Engineering working with you on this project?
They are not. They have opted out of this, and they specifically, obviously, let's be candid. They understood that the issues that were surrounding them in the community. They did not want to put you in an awkward position. They did not want to put your staff in an awkward position or us, and they have elected to pass on this work. And we are going forward at this time on our own. We believe that the work that we did on the first phase was high-quality work. It's been very, very well received, and we were happy to be part of that team. We're also just as ready to move forward on our own at this time.
Okay. Any other questions?
May I follow up with that question?
Yes, sir.
I could separate issues Dannenbaum's face in the community with our needs. I can separate that. Are you not associating yourself with them on this project? Is it to your detriment?
Well, I'm sorry.
And to follow. These kind of projects, because they're driven by grants from the state and stuff like that, it is helpful to us that the company that we hire also is in good terms with the state and maybe has, how should I put it, a good working relationship with those who will be making decisions on this project. Do you have that kind of relationship with them?
Yes, we do. And as I said, I spent 11 years leading the Texas Water Development Board. I came away from there on my own accord with relationships, I think, in excellent shape, and I think that your staff have been in a number of meetings and can attest to sort of the openness that the staff and the board treat us with. I think at going forward, we would want to bring the best team to your project, whoever was on that team, and we believe that we can take that ball forward. But if we had, if it was your desire going down the road to have others participate in that, we would be open to that as well.
Okay, I want to make a note here. Should you feel the need to associate with Dannenbaum, I have nothing against them based on this here. Their problems over there is separate from here. I have no problem with that. So I mean, if it's something that would be helpful to us, you're responsible ultimately.
Yes.
Please feel free that you can come to this board and talk about it.
Well, and I think that that's what we would do. We would do it open, above board, and with your full participation.
Mr. Peters, how much do you think this pilot study would cost?
We're looking, the state right now is allocated approximately $2.4 million to potentially up to 3 studies. So if you do the simple math, 800,000, and you can craft the study to fit the money to some extent. I think it would be our preference and our expectation as we go forward to, in all likelihood, ask for more money than that, because we think that would lead to a better study. I also think that we shouldn't be afraid to ask for the money that we think we need to do the job right. And I think part of the challenge that we would have is to make a compelling case, because the board may not just divide the money by 3. I think that they may choose based on what the commitment that they see at the local level and the quality of the submittal to offer disproportionate shares, if you will.
Well, one of the strongest factors should be need. If you're looking at Freeport, Corpus, and Brownsville, we're a much faster growing community than those 2 communities, and I think they don't have the water problems and droughts problems that we have.
And we have made that case. I think in this first submittal, the first phase, we made a very, very strong case, and I think it was very, very well received. Honestly, this project, and there have been public statements by officials from the state, from the Water Development Board and others, that this is the best project because of local need and because of the opportunity to actually implement this project. And we're seeing an opportunity because of the unique situation in this environment to spread the benefits of this project throughout the region, should that be your desire.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
Next firm is NRS. Last
Are we on?
Got 15 minutes, Bill, once you're ready.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Brusiak. My name is Bill Norris with NRS Consulting Engineers. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to present our qualifications. First of all, I'd like to introduce Jake White. He's with me this evening. Jake is a mechanical engineer in our office. A little bit about the team. Excuse me, my voice is a little bit hoarse for the last couple of weeks. But basically, the team consists of NRS as the lead engineer, project management. We've got Fernandez Group, public outreach. We also have talked to the Water Development Board and Mr. Brusiak about providing some in-kind services, testing, site facility operation to help offset some of the cost and in-kind contribution. Raw water characterization, R.J. Brandis and NRS will be working on that. Intake siting assessment, NRS and R.J. Brandis. Pilot scale process design, NRS and Doosan, large corporation building desal plants, and concentrate location and permits, R.J. Brandis and NRS. Permit applications, R.J. Brandis and Rabbit Kishner. And analytical monitoring, NRS, Doosan, and with the help of the Brownsville PUB. A little bit about each of the team members. NRS, we've been in business since 1988. We're a leader in developing and advancing alternative water sources in South Texas over the last 15 years. We have the most extensive desalination experience in Texas. Doosan Hydrotechnology is a world leader in desalination projects with a 40% market share of larger desalination plants. In December, they were awarded the largest desalination plant in the world. I believe that was 189 million gallons per day. They have an experience in all areas of seawater RO, designing, supplying intake systems, pretreatment systems, and full-scale seawater RO plants. R.J. Brandis Company, you're probably quite familiar with them. They're specialized in water resources in Texas. They have extensive experience with us in permitting the desalination plants that we've constructed thus far. And of course, they've worked with the PUB for several years. Rabbit Kishner, also a familiar name locally. They have a full range of environmental services, including archaeological, NEPA certifications, environmental impacts, plus hydrogeological services. And then last but not least, Fernandez Group. This is a highly publicized project, and good communications, public outreach is necessary. And they have a lot of experience also being part of our group as a regional water planning publicist for us. Extensive Valley experience. I want to just cover a few projects. The first three projects I'm looking at are really intake structures. You've got a major intake. Right now it's proposed to be taken out of the port. We just completed a 700 CFS or 450 million gallons a day Rio Grande pumping plant for Cameron County Irrigation District number 2. What's unique about this is, one, it's very large. It's large enough to serve the city of San Antonio. The estimated construction time that the Bureau of Reclamation had in there was 20 months, but as construction managers, we completed the project in 11 months. I won't read the quote that the manager basically appreciate our performance, dedication, attention to detail, and responsiveness for this project. And so that was one that was finished last year. Laguna Madre Water District, also an intake on the river. This was 30 million gallons a day, was constructed about 10 years ago. And so complete pipeline and pump station system, both two intakes, one on the reservoir and one on the Rio Grande. City of Laredo intake plant. This was a 60 million gallon a day intake off of the Rio Grande also. Looking at some of the pilot studies that we've done, probably the one that you might be familiar with that led into the Southmost plant was pilot testing that was done in 1995 through a research grant through the Water Development Board. So it was proving the feasibility of utilizing brackish groundwater treatment. We projected the cost of about $20 million for 20 million gallons per day. And it really laid the groundwork for the current projects that are underway or either completed in the valley or are planned. We've completed pilot testing for a seawater plant for Laguna Madre Water District in 1996. At that time, not too many people were looking at taking seawater, as it is one of the more expensive means of treating water, but as the reservoirs begin to deplete, it becomes a lot more feasible. And that was completed in 1996. With Doosan, just list about 4 different ones that they've done here in the States. In Georgia, 1MGD, nanofiltration, Long Beach, Water Department in California, Daytona Beach, and Pompano Beach. We see their pilot facilities there. That's pretty much what you might see in the size, probably up on the right-hand side. Might be a little bit larger than that as a seawater plant. Of course, outside of the States, in Bermuda, some of these smaller facilities was taking seawater with multimedia pretreatment filtration, and in San Juan. So they have several different facilities, not only in Texas, but also around the country and around the world. Of course, Southmost Regional Water Authority was one that I'm really proud of. It is currently the largest brackish RO plant in Texas. Total $30 million project cost. From planning, design, and construction, about 30 months. We use construction management to bring in the project quicker and also under budget. And like I said, the Water Development Board Planning Grant pilot study was really key and instrumental in making this come to fruition. The picture there on the lower right there was accepting the American Water Works Association reuse award. Just some of the projects in the valley that we've either completed or should be online in 2006. Pilot testing, I said, took place in '95. Rancho Viejo, or VMUD, in 1999 really took that and showed that you can really build these plants based on the pilot study. Only 250,000 gallons per day. But then Southmost came along in 2004 at 7.5 million. North Alamo in Willacy County, 1.25 million. And then North Cameron should be finished before the summer at 2.5 million, which is also a regional project. And the two North Alamo, Doolittle, and Owasso sites, 3.5 million each. By the end of this year, we should have 18.5 million gallons capacity in a three-county area. That's about 20,000 acre-feet of water rights that will be used for these facilities. Shows a saving of over $40 million if you had to purchase the water rights out of the Rio Grande. Current service area, this is the regional water planning area. The ones in red are cities that are looking at doing some type of desalination in the future. What's important here is it also allows for potential partners for the PUB for the seawater plant. Show that this is the coverage area for the Southmost plant, coverage area for the Willacy County plant. Then that's the North Cameron plant coverage area, and then the two plants for Edinburgh covers this area, and then a planned project for Willacy County, Raymondville area, covers pretty much the entire three-county area with exception of southern Hidalgo. Mentioned some of the things, our familiarity with the Water Development Board. Of course, we were the regional water planning engineer for this region, the brackish groundwater study, the seawater study for Laguna Madre. Of course, we helped PUB get a wastewater master plan application scope development a few years ago. And just multiple SRF and funded projects for water and wastewater. One of the things we just got awarded is a guidance manual for implementation of brackish RO plants. It's going to be a study guide for future RO plants across the state. Plus, we were one of the engineers doing the statewide brackish groundwater study. This is a plant by Doosan. It's really the first hybrid plant which takes multi-stage flash distillation and RO, about 62 and 37 million gallons per day. So this is the first plant of this type. So it shows the diversity of Doosan as part of our team. And some of the brackish and nanofiltration, you see Southmost, they provided the equipment for that. North Alamo, the plant in Willacy County, and then other plants in Florida, Colorado, and Ohio. This shows some of their international experience in Egypt and Cuba. One of the important things of this project is obtaining permits to discharge the brine from the plant, and using Ravi Kistner and R.J. Brandis. They have extensive experience with state and federal permitting in cultural resources and environmental assessments. Plus, they've assisted us in all the saltwater disposal for desalination in South Texas. And they're currently working with us on South Padre Island for the seawater desalination plant that we're getting ready to construct there. Understanding this, really the key to the piloting is expertly designing and testing pretreatment system and chemicals. Piloting will allow you to optimize the design and the operation of the full-scale plant. And so it's really good interpretation data is a key to piloting, and knowledgeable people on site, which we have local people that can make proper adjustments to the operations. In our understanding, the Water Development Board says we can use 4-inch elements, but really the pilot plant needs to use 8-inch elements if the full-scale plant is going to use 8-inch elements, as 4-inch elements behave differently than 8. We've had ongoing discussions with the Water Development Board regarding the scope and understanding, and basically have visited with them on a lot of these issues. One of the things, project approach we're looking at is we are currently doing a pilot facility for Laguna Madre. what that does for the PUB is we can dual track some of the information that we have with that and share that information. Creates multiple options for water supply in case you want to take the water from the ocean as opposed to taking it from the port area. There could be some cost savings in operations. The schedule, we have proposed an accelerated schedule to meet the legislative session for funding. This didn't turn out too well in the conversion, but I wanted to highlight the red is legislative appropriations, which means we have to have an interim report in January and February. That's when the legislation is, but the initial draft report needs to be in probably, I think it was in September and finalized in October. This would yield a plant construction initial startup in November 2009, and I think that meets with what the governor is planning. This it's kind of hard to tell. Your proposed site at the Brownsville Ship Channel shows the red line is your brine line, but as you see up on the top part, that Andy Bowie Park on South Park Island is where their facility is, and if you wanted to take the data on the intake, if it's a cleaner water, it may save you money in the long run. So you could utilize the same ditch to take the water out or bring the water in from a seawater intake. NRS team, number one successful desalination project in Texas. From planning to implementation, we have extensive municipal desalination work, treatment and disposal capabilities, and project manager expertise. We've been here and been doing this for quite some time locally. We have a potential for power plant partner with Doosan. Not only do they do seawater ROs, but they also do power plants. We have extensive regional experience, which will come in handy when you're trying to find partners. And we have the ability to find funding, financing sources, and successes with various sources. We're here local. We know the conditions. And then a major seawater study underway on South Party Island will also give us additional information that would prove beneficial. NRS, we're just not your average engineer, so I'll leave it open for questions. And if you did catch that, look, I handed out this one-page summary of everything I said, and you don't have to read all the rest.
Norris, there'd be no conflict of interest with you, moderate, maybe some time. And also, there'd be nothing to prohibit you from sharing and us benefiting work you've done for the William Madre.
No, sir, we expect to get funding from the Texas Water Development Board on that project as well. And it is a public project. If we're working on both projects, then there is no problem, because I think what you do here will benefit them. Plus, having both working at the same time, and if we're doing both of the projects, the economy of scale of doing two of these is going to save money for both entities.
And how much, I'm sorry, Mayor. Go ahead. How much do you think we could save by doing some of the work ourselves?
I haven't put a pencil to it, but if you're providing the data, it's basically labor intensive. If you're providing the day-to-day operation and going out there just as your water plant operator, it saves from you paying one of us to be out there 24 hours a day or 8 hours a day taking those samples. I would say that, I mean, I don't have a number, but if you got to run the thing for 12 months and you have 3 people out there, and you pay your guy $10-12 an hour, and you pay us for a technician at $40 or $50 an hour, you're going to save quite a bit of money doing that. And plus, that's also your match that you can put toward the competition on the grant. And I highly recommend that. We've done that before when we worked with the staff on the Southmost.
Chairman, Pat, you?
Go ahead.
I didn't know if Pat was done.
Are you done?
Along the lines of what Mr. Milo was asking you, Bill, what's the size or scope of this South Padre Island seawater study and plant?
We're looking at constructing a 1 million gallon a day plant. The size of the facility will be, or the pilot plant is going to be about the same size. You only build them so much based on seawater. and we'll probably use the same 8-inch elements. And one of the things, if timing is right, we utilize normally you run that for 3 months. We utilize it for 3 months, and then if it fits in with the schedule, we use the same pilot facility here, and it saves having to buy 2 pilot facilities, and so you share in that cost. It may or may not work out that way because timing may be is obviously an issue with the governor's project.
Well, wouldn't this, by the same token, hinder our possibility of getting this project from the governor's office insofar as South Padre Island is trying to do its own, or is undertaking its own study and plans for a desal plant?
They are seeking no funds from the governor's office for the implementation of the project.
But it's still going through the Water Development Board.
The only way the way I see it, the only way that I see that Laguna Madre will get any funds will be the crumbs from this project, from these projects, if there's any left over. And if that's, but what Laguna Madre voted to do is to go with or without the Water Development Board.
Didn't they approve this a couple years ago, or presented it before the voters, and it was?
No, that was for Southmost.
Oh, that's right. They decided to go out on their own. They were
Right.
part of Southmost. So why would they want to work with PUB now?
I'm not really asking them to work with PUB.
Are you just saying we would benefit from doing it?
I have the information. If I'm doing the information,
Them.
Well, and goes back to his question then, are you positive that they would not have any objections to you utilizing that information? I knew there was a history here, and I was, not just from the conflict standpoint, but if they're the ones that are going to be paying this amount of money, and obviously they're paying you to do the study that needs to be done for the pilot at the island, are they going to have any type of proprietary interest to keep that information?
Or trade secrets or whatever.
they are a public entity just like the PUB.
Right.
They will be completed with their study in, we're shooting for probably the end of the summer. That'll be publicly approved, and that'll be full knowledge of anybody in the public. So,
Do they know that you're trying to get this project too?
I've told them that there's a benefit to them also, that you can't have too much information. It's better to have more information than too little.
Well, you learn also more as you go along, so that's beneficial. I agree with that.
Well, and also, Laguna Madre will probably start their pilot project before you start yours, and the learning curve for PUB will be even better.
Yeah.
Then the last question I guess I would have is, would you be willing to work with other entities such as URS?
Yes.
For this project?
I would.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Bill, environmental impact, are you going to do a little bit of those studies on there?
Yes.
And with your experience, have you, with those projects, the environmental groups, the Texas Shrimp Association, the Red Snapper people, the people with seafood in the Gulf, have you seen any of them put up a wall on any of these desalinations, since you're pulling out water and taking fresh and throwing brine back in the ocean? Us having the Laguna Madre, one of the largest nurseries in the Western Hemisphere for fish and trout and redfish, just a concern. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I feel like I have a very good rapport with the environmental groups through my regional planning process. We had an environmental committee. I meet with them on a regular basis. When I do have a project to begin with, I set up an environmental committee to visit with them before the projects ever get started and collect their input. And what they've stated to me when we did the regional planning, when we talked about desalination, for the most part, I mean, obviously any strategy you do has some impact somewhere, but they feel like the answer to the water shortage is desalination. Now, that doesn't mean you can just dump the brine out anywhere. What you'd have to do is take that brine to a mixing zone out in the ocean so that you don't have any impact where it mixes with that
Well,
large
the
body
concern
of
is
water.
the shrimp estuaries. That's what his concern is.
Yeah, and we're not going to put it in the bay.
Nurseries, you're going out to the Gulf.
You've got to go out to the Gulf with this quantity of water. You don't really have a choice. Now, the other thing that we would look at that's working for South Padre Island that benefits you is we tested to see if we could do beach wells. And I know you can't do beach wells here, but what we found out when we went deeper, the water, there's about 50 feet, and then there's a clay seam about 50 feet, and about 150 feet down is 75,000 TDS water, which is about what we want to put the concentrate of the brine. And you may have that option to do it here instead of going all the way out to the Gulf. You can put it into an equally salty water body as a possibility. I'm not saying that would work. You still have to permit that too, but that may be a good opportunity for you.
Would that be very costly?
Cheaper than building a line out to the Gulf.
And
Both of them are costly.
Yeah, but I like your proposal to have the intake nearer to the Gulf than inland for cleaner water.
And what that benefits the PUB is you don't have to pay for that analysis because it's going to be done in another study. So if you had a standalone and you wanted to figure that out, you'd have to pay to actually build a temporary line and bring it into the port and test it. We'll already be testing that in another location that will benefit this project.
And you, it seems like you favor that.
I don't necessarily, I don't favor anything until the numbers come in, but I know that the water coming in from the port varies so much in its water quality because anytime you have a dirty water, you've got to get rid of you have to really pre-treat that very well. And until you pilot that, you really don't know what it's going to cost you. And if you get a grant to construct it, and you don't get a grant to operate it, it's cheaper. If they're going to pay for the line going out to the bay, you pay less for treatment in the long run. It's going to cost you less in the long run.
So we want to do it right.
Right. I mean, we want to make sure we have all the we want to give you
The highest return on our...
Right. Give you the information to make the decision to go forward or not go forward.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, this is an action item.
I don't know how the rest of my colleagues feel, but based on what I heard here, maybe we need a little more time to think about it, but I was favoring URS, but after listening to NRS, I'm kind of looking at the benefits from piggybacking what they're already doing in Laguna Madre, and I like the alternatives that they proposed that the URS did not, like taking the water directly from the ocean. And the cost benefits, I think, would be to our best interest to do it with somebody locally who's already working on another plant similar to this. Those are my thoughts, but if the board wants to table it and consider...
Well, I think we are under some time.
Really under a time constraint, not something that's driven by us, but by the state. And the complexity of the application is going to take all of whoever you select to get this thing in. And that's, we can table it for a day or so, but we really need to...
Well, how do you guys feel? I mean,
I don't disagree. See, Pat, we're agreeing more than we realize.
That's scary.
Scary.
But the one thing that URS brings is the connection with Austin, which is going to be critical to this decision. And I don't know how they can divvy up the work. I was leaning just like you, I think.
50-50?
Yeah. I don't know if they'd be willing to do it on a 50-50.
Well, Norris is. He's willing to do it.
I think that's, and I don't know if that works. I don't know if it makes it more expensive, but I think that'd be the best of both.
That was my concern too. That you heard me ask a question of URS. But ultimately, I think the project has to stand on its own, and it's good to have a good working relationship with state officials. But from what I'm hearing here, compared to the prior presentation, I just look at that this was more advantageous to PUB.
Is there any disadvantage to NRS jumping in now insofar as they were not involved in the first phase, which was
No, it's a
basically
separate,
the
it's a
application
separate
study?
proposal.
Completely different.
Willing to give them 50/50.
I'm sure they'll take,
And I like the idea that we can do a lot of it in-house too. I mean,
Yeah, I think just on that, from the in-house, what we propose in the application would be the power cost for the, run the operation for a year. Land to deploy, which is available,
That
our
could-
laboratory,
That's substantial.
substantial, and our operation.
Savings, yeah. So I like
And I
that
think we
too.
could come up with,
What's your,
well, if, and I, you know, you can't make really a wrong decision on who you hire, because they've got little different approaches, each one, which is something that I didn't know about until I saw it today, which I think is good.
You like me.
But, you know, I have no reason not to go with the firm that did the feasibility study. I mean, we had no problems with them, they did a good job, and, you know, I would recommend we stay with them, only because I don't have anything to go against them. Although Bill provides some things that we don't have, local. Bill's easy to work with. You probably get more with Bill than any firm I've ever worked with, because he's local, and you got a problem, you get Bill. You don't get 3 or 4 or 5 different offices. But it's up to the board. We're comfortable. I think you're going to get a good job out of either one or both.
I would tend to maybe lean on NRS, him being a local and dealing with some of the local companies here and having some experience with some of the entities down here in South Texas. And I would probably aim towards him and give him the full control, because 50/50, there could be problems. There could be problems.
Somebody has to be in control, even if it's
I say, you know, on this one here, like Robert's saying, they're local. John reiterated that, and John was surprised by some of the stuff they presented, which I think it's influencing us right now, today. And we are under short time to make the decision. I would like to make the motion and give them the opportunity. I know the others did URS did the feasibility study. Well, let's give them this here, and next time maybe it'll be Dannenbaum. URS.
Yeah.
Like I pointed out, I have nothing against Dannenbaum, even if Dannenbaum were to be here, because I think each one has to stand on its merits, whatever they're proposing.
I'll second that.
okay, we have a motion and a second for
motion is
NRS.
award it to NRS.
NRS completely.
Completely.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes, unanimous.
And please tell URS that there's nothing against it. We want them to come back and compete.
Okay.
Okay, we'll go back to item 2, General Manager's report.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I only had the financial report, which Leandro's going to do, but first I wanted to report on our impact fee committee and meeting. The committee's been meeting, Mr. Amata and the group diligently in the last few weeks after Christmas, and I'm pleased to say we've reached a milestone, I think, today in identifying the capital improvements that are eligible for capacity driven and are eligible to be associated with an impact fee, some $83 million, I think, that the committee voted unanimous on to support, take to the commission. That goes on now to the consultant, which will incorporate the land use assumptions and start recommendations to the city and start the hearings. Mr. Mata, do you want to comment on that?
Well, this is a 5-year CIP plan. First of all, I really want to thank staff and general manager and assistant Eddie Campirano for all the work they've done to prepare for the meetings and provide us with the presentations and all the data that the board members were requesting. And it was a lot. It was a lot to absorb, and they managed to do it timely and very constructively. And I think it kind of answered everybody's questions to their satisfaction, to where we got a unanimous vote when we were very divided. I mean, very divided, and they can tell you that. I mean, there was dog fights there. I'm not kidding you. Every meeting. And in spite of all that, we came to a conclusion that we approved the 5-year plan with a new wastewater sewer plant, which was not originally in the plan. But based on yours truly's recommendation, who brought it to the table, it was considered. At first it was rejected. And then we saw the feasibility of it and by putting the numbers to it, and it got approved unanimously. And I want to thank again the staff and manager and the system for the work they
I
did.
think Eddie and the staff and Gigi and her group put a lot of work into this to get to today's point, and I think that's a critical point to identify those projects and dollars associated.
And that is very good because we had anticipated a much longer time frame. And I was surprised that you guys got it done so quick. I thought that they just got tired of Pat and they just said, oh.
No, they weren't. No, it wasn't that.
Resistance.
There was a lot of discussion, a lot of effort by the group.
There was a lot of questions. I wouldn't say resistance. There was a lot of questions. And people seemed to think that I was privy to stuff that I wasn't. Everything that was coming down the pipe, they were getting it when I was getting it. Just because I'm here on the board, I ain't having anything extra before them. It was just all new to us, and everybody's questions got answered to their satisfaction to where we could get to the point to where we could agree. And I
have to say that I had some reluctance about that committee that the city commission appointed, but you know, a lot of them being developers and working with developers, they even voted unanimously that they
for all the projects we recommend.
That's right. And that goes
So I think
what their impact is going to be.
Being made.
So that was very good.
there's hope.
Okay, financial report, down there. Short and sweet.
Do we have money in the bank, gentlemen?
Do we have any phantom check writers?
Mr. Chairman, Mayor, members of the board, my name is Alejandro Garcia. I'm the Director of Finance and Chief Financial Officer for Brownsville PUB. This presentation will provide you with an overview of the financial status of PUB through December 31st, 2005. This slide here provides an overview of a summary of the revenue activity through December. The first major caption on this slide is the net operating revenues. Through the end of December, PUB has achieved the $50 million mark. There are $50,010,877 in net operating revenues. Other revenues, when you consider the additional 1.4 for other revenues, interest, and non-operating income, we're at a total of $52,263,894 in gross revenues through the first quarter. When you consider the adjustments to get to the adjusted gross revenues, fuel, of course, is a big portion of it, $21.8 million. Wholesale energy expenses, $6,400,000. And then our contributions to the O&M and debt service requirements for Southmost of $969,000. That leaves an adjusted gross revenues amount of $23,037,508. And as you all know, this is a basis for calculating the transfer to the COB. On the following page, we provide a summary of the expense requirements and other requirements. Total expenses through December were $9,611,865. Our debt service obligation, $6,009,149, and for total requirements of $15.6 million. When you consider including the COB usage of $1.1 million, this leaves a balance available to PUB and the city of $6,220,400. The breakdown of that $6.2 million is $1.1 million for the city and $5.1 million for PUB. The budget, as y'all recall, called for some targets to meet as far as reserves. Our operating reserve addition for the total year that was approved was a target of $1 million. We have transferred $250,000 to that reserve. Our sub account for the fuel adjustment, we targeted $4 million. We've transferred $1 million. Our capital improvement project funding for the year was $10,700,000. We have transferred $2.6 million. Our improvement reserve fund, the annual requirement here is $3 million, and this is part of the new ordinance, $15 million accumulation over 5 years. We've transferred $750,000, and leaving a balance available for our surplus, PUB surplus of $437,720. Brief overview of how we compare the actual numbers to the budgeted and prior year are $50 million in net operating revenues. We're $12.8 million more than the budgeted, $37.2 million. That's approximately 34%. And $18.4 million more than the $31.6 million achieved through the same period in 2005, for FY 2005. Our gross revenues of $52.3 million are $13.7 million more than the budgeted through December at $38.6 million, and $19.2 million more than the $33.1 actual same period last year. Our adjusted gross revenues are more aligned, primarily due because of the fuel expenses. It's $23 million actual compared to $22.4 million, just $600,000 approximately more than budgeted, and $2.8 million more than prior year. This graph illustrates the comparison of fuel and energy costs and O&M expenses. As mentioned previously, we have increased or experienced an increase in fuel and energy, $21.9 million versus our budgeted $15 million, and well over $10 million compared to last year. O&M expenses are pretty much in line with budgeted projections, $9.3 million versus $9.7, and slightly higher than the last year's $8.2 million. Balance available to PUB, a little higher than budgeted, $6.2 million versus $5.1, so about $1.1 million more, and slightly over the same period last year, $6 million. PUB improvement share was $5.1 million, and the CUB share, as mentioned previously, was $1.1 million.
Now,
Yes, sir.
we'll take it back there. If we had budgeted based on 3.8 or 1.3, and we're actually at 5.1, why is there less transfer to the city?
Well, this is once again, it's based on the 10% formula.
Right.
The $23 million turns into a transfer
Is it
of 2.3, but it's net of COB usage.
Well, I mean, is there an increase on the COB usage? Is that what's eating it up?
Could be.
Why don't you just double check on that? You can let me know.
Okay, but that is one of the variables. Even though our gross revenue, adjusted gross revenues are higher, they are the 1.1 is actually considering the COB usage.
Yeah. Okay.
We can point that out next time so you can see that, so you know what's driving that.
I'll get you an answer shortly. It is in the fund summary and then the report. Okay, and here these are the contributing pieces from the three utilities: electric contributing 4.96, water 400,000, and wastewater 860,000 to the balance available for PUB and COB.
Leandro?
Yes, sir.
And Mayor, I don't want to upset you or anything about the money going to the city. I don't want to do that right here. But yeah, it might end up that way. But anyway, the thing is, I see here, I've never seen the city of /PUB improvements /city of Brownsville. I've seen the cash transfers to the city of Brownsville, but all of a sudden these financials have COB all over it on surplus, PUB surplus for improvements, and then they slash it for city of Brownsville. Are y'all letting us know that if the city of Brownsville runs in a problem, they can get the surplus of the PUB because there's names on here?
Now, what we've done in these slides are just summary, top level information. If you do go back to the summary, to the fund summaries on page 13, we do provide a more extensive breakdown, just as you were used before.
Because I can understand the city of Brownsville coming out for the cash transfers, but then you guys put them on the surplus, but then the debt obligation, all it has is PUB. If they're on the surplus, why don't you put them on the debt obligation too, with the city of Brownsville slash after the PUB? Why is that? I've never seen that before in these books where, it seems like there's more city of COB on there, no? Okay, that's just the way I see it.
As I mentioned, it's just to capture the top level summary. We can probably work with the captured names on that
Yeah.
to make it
You might want to
more
clear it
clear.
up a little bit.
Absolutely, we can clarify or add separate lines if we need
Unless, you know, you want to put city of Brownsville, well, then put them on the debt obligation also. It's
We
just
are
a thought.
responsible for the debt obligation.
But it's not on the books here, there's no name.
Everything goes under the city.
Just a thought on that, from what I read.
We'll expand on some of the captions and then rename them for clarification.
See, there's got to be a rename.
You guys run over.
Go ahead.
The next three graphs illustrate consumption and water and sewer use. This graph shows that we kind of stayed stable between November and December concerning electric, 87 million, and slightly under 87 million in December. On the water side, we did have a slight increase from November, approximately 500,000 gallons up to 520,000, kind of in the same ballpark as prior year, as 2005. Same goes for the wastewater flows. Stayed steady at the 330, 340,000 range. On the CIP, this slide provides an overview of our CIP expenditure status. As y'all recall, we had an annual spending plan of about $39.9 million, funded, as you can see on the left column, from various sources: prior year bonds, impact fees, and improvement or current revenue funds. Through the end of December, when you combine expenses and obligations or encumbrances, we're at a $9.4 million level, which translates into 23.6%, slightly under the target of 25%, but well within reach, and a lot of activity happening in the obligation side. Y'all have approved a lot of POs, and we'll do more today as well. So this slide just gives you a breakdown of the CIP expenses by utility, by area: general, electric, water, and wastewater. And that concludes finance overview.
Any questions? Is that it?
Yes.
Questions on the whole book, or we finished on this?
Anywhere, we can bring other directors up if we need to.
Whatever questions, if you have any questions.
Let's see, I got a couple here. I want to go to the check register. I've just got 4 or 5 of them I'm just curious about, caught my attention. Page 1, you're there on section 2. Just for my knowledge, I don't understand it. 90895, $42,780 in Via Properties reimburse acreage charge agreement. Can you?
That's when we have reimbursement agreements with developers. When other people come in and connect, we collect that, and quarterly we send that back to them. It's just a pass-through, whatever somebody ties on to the line.
Like one of their customers buys a lot and then.
No, what it is the developer builds a line out to a subdivision, oversizes it. As other people tie on, he gets his money back from that, so as other people are connecting, and that money flows through us back to the developer.
We collect it, then we reimburse
Right,
it.
correct.
But they paid it up front.
Some of these are multi-year,
Yeah.
going up to maybe 15 years.
15-year contracts.
Okay, and then 90907, 9,869 to Kelly Hart and Hallman, payment for services on Weir and RE Reservoir. Okay. Is that coming from grant money or from the PUB?
That is part of, that is PUB O&M. That is the environmental lawyer that's on the team, and that is not part of any EPA reimbursement.
Is that a monthly deal?
That's a budgeted expense. We can spend up to some.
Oh, okay.
There's some months you'll see that may be more than others. It will vary from month to month depending on.
And that, so we're continuing on the weir?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we've not scraped that project.
Okay, check 90918. You have a OTSO Inc. Security service for a certain amount, and then you have it again on page 7 for another 2,000. Why 2 different checks in the same month? OTSO Security Service?
Not paid on a monthly basis. They're paid their bills come in every 2 weeks, and that's when we pay.
You bill bi-weekly.
Bi-weekly.
Right.
Okay, check 91075, 4,880, Ferguson Enterprises. It's a gasket that's 3-inch by 1/8 inch. Boy, I looked at that and that sure is small for 4,880. Is that normal for that gasket? A 3-inch by a 1/8 inch for 4,880?
That's probably inventory. It's probably a list of items that you're only seeing the first item.
Oh, okay, okay. Is there a backup on this in here, on more information?
Not within the book.
Not
but
within the book.
We can absolutely provide you details per transaction.
You understand why it came to my attention now,
Oh, yes, sir.
3-inch by 1/8 inch for 4,000?
That would be a very expensive gasket.
Yeah, and a lot of these, sometimes they just pick the first line of the description. We're limited, in some cases, to the space.
Now, with respect to all the PUB employees and the Christmas parties and all that good stuff, I see here, and with all respect to you, James, there's a $664 expense for a division Christmas party. Does everybody have a division Christmas party, or just he?
We had allocation on a per employee basis. So in this case, James, with his several hundred employees, or somewhat a little over 100, 90, he did obtain one check, and then as employee appreciation, provided different lunches for the groups.
Do you recall what it was per employee? $8 per employee.
I'm sorry?
$8.
$8 per employee, and they were mainly used for lunches.
Do that once a year.
Thank you very much. Just wanted to check it out. I hope nobody gets offended by my questions.
I'm sure they don't.
That's nice.
All right, next item. It's going to be item 3. Consideration and approval of an ordinance and resolution adjustment regarding pole attachment rates. Mr. McCann.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, in January 2005, PUB staff determined that the pole attachment rental rates of $4 per pole were extremely low. Based upon historical construction and maintenance costs, staff calculated that the rate should be a minimum of $10 per pole, which would increase annual revenues by $74,000, and advised the cable and telephone companies that new contracts were in order. During the 2005 Texas legislature session, Section 54.204 of the Texas Utilities Code was approved, which requires uniform pole attachment rates. PUB therefore hired a consultant, RASR Associates, to do a formal analysis to determine what that uniform rate should be based upon the account standardized by FERC. RASR findings determined that the uniform rate should be $14.87. In order to comply with this new section 54.204, a proposed ordinance and resolution adjustment adoption was prepared by our attorney, Davidson and Trillo. Upon approval by the PUB Board and Brownsville City Commission, all joint pole contracts will be updated to reflect a new rate of $14.87, increasing revenues an additional $60,000.
Make the motion to approve.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Next item. Item for consideration and approval of bid purchase 13 vehicles, bid number 019-06. Mr. Garcia.
I'm going to do it.
Oh, it said Leandro Garcia here.
Yes, it does.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Chairman, members of the board, bids were opened in January 12th for 13 replacement vehicles. Specifications were sent to 25 vendors, and it was posted on the PUB website. 5 vendors responded: Tipotex of Brownsville, Rodriguez Ford, Mercury of Raymondville, Tipton Motors of Brownsville, Henna Chevrolet of Austin, Caldwell Country Chevrolet in Caldwell, Texas. The results are Tipotex Chevrolet getting item number 1 for 2 each 3/4 ton, item number 3, 1 each 3/4 ton, item number 4, a half-ton pickup, and also item number 4, but they have different, one's extended cab and a bed liner. The other one has a bed liner, extended cab, and a V8 engine and a 4-wheel drive. Rodriguez Ford Mercury got item number 4, 2 each half-ton pickups, and item number 5 for 1 each cargo van with a ladder rack. And Henna Chevrolet got item number 2 for 5 each half-ton pickups with side mount toolboxes. These vehicles are for various departments throughout PUB, and the 13 vehicles being replaced will be sold in auction when we receive the new vehicles. The recommended action is to approve the low bidders, Tipotex Chevrolet of Brownsville, in the amount of $92,366.19, Rodriguez Ford Mercury of Raymondville in the amount of $36,350, and Henna Chevrolet of Austin in the amount of $54,430.25 for a grand total amount not to exceed $183,146.44.
Do I have a
I make
motion?
the motion to approve based on staff recommendation.
I second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passes. Next item, item 5. Consideration and approval of bid award to purchase a backhoe loader with an extender hoe and a material handling aerial device. Bid number 018-06.
This is a low bidder item, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, it is.
I make the motion to approve.
There's a motion to approve.
Second.
And a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Item number 6, consideration and approval to reimburse City of Brownsville for utility adjustments as part of the 2004 CIP Contract 1 project. Mrs. Gomez.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, as part of the City of Brownsville 2004 CIP Contract 1 reconstruction project, the Brownsville PUB included utility adjustments needed due to conflicts with the proposed roadway and storm sewer improvements. Invitations to bid were advertised by the City of Brownsville. Bids were received by the City Purchasing Department on December the 14th, with 3 bidders responding: RM Wallstore, G&T Paving, and R&R Paving. The overall low bidder for the contract is G&T Paving Company with a utility adjustment bid of $196,104.29 and an overall construction bid of $1,198,208.16. On January the 17th of this year, the Brownsville City Commission awarded G&T Paving the construction contract for the project, and PUB staff recommends approval to reimburse the City of Brownsville for utility adjustments as part of the 2004 CIP Contract 1 project for an amount not to exceed of $196,104.29.
I make the motion to approve.
There's a motion to approve.
Staff recommendation.
There's a motion to approve by Mr. Ahmad,
Second.
second by Mr. Garcia. All those in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. Next item. Item number 7, consideration and approval to extend the annual contract for concrete work for an additional 1 year. Mrs. Gomez.
The Brownsville PUB board members approved the annual contract for concrete work on December 20, 2004 to RML Hauling and Milling from Brownsville. For the fiscal year 2004-2005, RML supplied BPUB with approximately 7,500 square feet of material during the 12 months of the contract period. No quantity is specifically guaranteed, and the annual contract for concrete work consists of the items listed on the attached bid summary, which includes curb and gutters, sidewalks, driveways, and electrical concrete pads. The fiscal year 2004-2005 awarded contract gives the PUB the option of renewing the contract for 2 additional one-year periods. Due to the increase in fuel prices and the opportunity to save on administrative expenses involved in the rebidding process, the PUB is exercising the option of renewing this contract. RML Hauling has agreed to honor last year's bid price for an additional year. There's an attached letter from them, which will be effective from February 2006 to February 2007. And PUB staff recommends approval to extend annual contract for concrete work for an additional 1 year with RML Hauling and Milling from Brownsville.
Is this based on last year's price?
Yes.
And you checked the market? I mean,
Again,
we're
due to
better
fuel
served-
prices, we're better
we're
off.
served by
Yes.
doing this? Okay, based on staff recommendation, I make a motion to approve.
There's a motion by Mr. Ahmad,
Second?
second by Mr. Sanchez. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. Next item, item number 8, consideration and approval of an emergency rental of a temporary mobile reverse osmosis system.
Mr. Chairman.
Fernando Sainz.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, at a previous board meeting, I disclosed to you the emergency condition that was created when the reverse osmosis system failed at Silas Ray, and mentioned to you the critical nature of processed water for the power plant. I also mentioned to you that I would be back before you with the agenda item to approve the selection of GE Mobile Water, Inc. For providing the temporary reverse osmosis system. The 2 bids that we have, one is from U.S. Filter, totals $168,000 for a 4-month period. Because we don't know the nature of the repair and how long it will take, we've asked for them to provide this service on a monthly basis. That's their cost for providing an RO of 100 gallons per minute. GE Mobile Water also provided a quote for us of $83,205. Staff selected that option. And this agenda item is just to approve that expenditure. The recommended action is the PB staff recommends approval of the emergency rental of a portable 100-gallon per minute reverse osmosis system on a monthly basis to supply temporary RO quality water to continue to operate the power generating units for an amount not to exceed $83,205.
What caused the rupture, Jeremy?
It was
Yeah, it was a tap into the water that comes in from the city, where we inject the chemicals into the line. It was a small elbow that was patched up, and it just failed.
Is this a
It
special?
was patched up and they didn't follow up and fix it permanently, or what?
Well, this would be that was the original design, the way that it was. What we're proposing to do on another item is to replace the control system. This is just to provide the water treatment, because the existing system is not operating. To answer your question on why it failed, parts and pieces fail with time. The location of the chemical line was not in a good location. The original design was not in a good location.
Who did the design?
This was done by Black & Veatch when they installed unit number 9. Also,
Black & Veatch is aware of the problems were being caused because of poor
this is
design?
way. No, we've not notified Black & Veatch, but this is way past any construction warranties.
And it's not under any warranty or anything yet? But it's pretty costly, but I guess we have to do it, right?
We don't have a choice. The importance of water to the processes at the plant require, we can't make enough water. We can't make water of the quality that we need to operate the plant.
For the purpose of education and saving somebody else money down the road, even ourselves, I would advise Black & Veatch of what happened to correct the mistake in the future when they're doing something like that. I make the motion.
Okay, we have a motion to approve staff recommendation. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Mr. Sanchez. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Next item, item number 9, consideration and approval of emergency funds for the repair of Unit 9 combustion turbine. Mr. Sainz.
During that last board meeting, I also informed you of the transition piece failure on unit number 9 and the required replacement of that unit back into service, which staff and conjunction with Siemens folks proceeded with the repair of the unit. This item again is before you just to cover the expenses that were made for the repair of unit number 9. We've done this several times as an emergency repair. It's just brought to you, you're advised of the emergency repair, then we follow up with an agenda item to formalize the expenditure. This is paid out of the contingency O&M fund, and we've over time have been able to decrease the expense that PUB incurs for the repair of the transition pieces. When I first got here, it was in the...
How much will we spend on Unit 9 already, on repairs like this?
This particular repair is covered by an agreement with Siemens because of issues that the unit had with transition pieces. We get discounts on the replacement of the transition pieces, and also due to the operation and maintenance agreement with them, they do provide services, technical services at a discounted rate. How much we spent? We've had failures with the transition pieces, I would say maybe every 3 to 4 months based on a high use of the unit.
But 3 to 4
We're still
months,
existing.
lifespan shouldn't be longer than that.
Absolutely, you're right. They should be. And I guess later this week, the folks from Siemens will be down here to discuss, and I mentioned to you that the new transition design that's contemplated for this particular unit. They do have a pilot pilot plant where these transitions, the new transitions, have been installed. They're going to be here this week to report on what success they've had with the new modifications.
We'll have a report for you in our next meeting.
This is at Silas Ray.
Yes.
This particular piece of equipment.
Unit 9.
Unit 9. You know, it just continues making me think about the overhead at Silas Ray and how we're producing electricity at the Oakland Union, the Hidalgo, and purchasing out on the grid. And here's another amount that we've got to put. Of course, I'm not going to disagree with it because we've got to keep that machine going. But just another example of money going into the facility, though, which is a jewel for the city of Brownsville. We're just not producing the electricity at 100% out of there.
It's still costly to produce it out of there.
I realize that, but you still got overhead, high overhead all year long for that big old plant, and it's just concern to me. And but I understand that the machine must, continue going on. So I make a motion on PUB staff recommendation.
Motion by Mr. Sanchez.
Second.
I would like for you to stress to them that we need to correct this and get the design done to where we don't have these.
They'll be here Wednesday, right,
We're
John?
going to meet with them Wednesday.
Whatever material they give us, we'll present to you at an executive session next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I second.
Second by Mr. Ahmada. All those in favor? Okay, I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Garcia seconded.
Mr. Garcia, we had that second. Motion passes. Next item, item number 10. Consideration and approval of resolution endorsing the City Commission's consideration and adoption of the proposed oil and grease ordinance as modified per City Commission's recommendations. Mr. Gomez.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, January 3rd, PUB personnel presented the board endorsed ordinance to the City Commission. City Commission recommended that we revise the ordinance to find alternatives for small businesses to specifically address the cost of the grease interceptor. After listening to our customers, board, commission, we made inquiries of other programs and evaluated our ordinance to develop a viable solution that is applicable to our situation. These modifications include alternatives for small businesses and a surcharge program. So any business using less than 40,000 gallons will have the option to install a device, a grease trap that's at least 50 gallons. And anybody above the 40,000 will continue to have to install, PUB recommended.
What I didn't see here, that there should be, Mayor, there should be some kind of clause that if these people try to cheat.
I thought that was in there.
There is.
I didn't see it. Okay, if they try to cheat.
Because we're going to be able to run tests to see what they're
Correct, yeah.
discharging.
To test these people, and if they
Correct.
cheat,
Okay.
then
And
they're
then
going to
that's,
pay.
because it is pretty lengthy and I skimmed through it.
It's,
and
I
missed
think,
it.
a good compromise and it's actually a
It still,
benefit
yeah,
for
it still
us.
addresses the discharge issue, does not put us
Correct.
in any problem, and allows us to go after any violation.
And, I would stress that they be given a copy of this ordinance, anybody that applies. That way,
Sure, what we're going to probably be doing is we'll be conducting some workshops and let everybody know.
everybody should get a copy. When they apply, everybody
Correct.
should get a copy. That way you can't have an excuse or anything like this, and they know exactly what, because a lot of people tend to cheat. They think they can slide by and use more than what they're telling you, reporting, and then it causes a problem, and they expect the others to pay for it.
Well, we're the ones that are going to be conducting the sampling, and it's going to be a third-party lab that will be.
And we want to
given-
work with them. That was the purpose
Right.
of going back and forth with that. I
Right.
make the motion to approve if staff and the mayor and everybody else feels comfortable with this.
Yeah, before we go, I know that we rejected it a couple of times up here, and then I was watching the city commission meetings when they went up to you guys, Mayor, and I know that the mayor and Commissioner Longoria came up with some good questions, and there was a lot of small business people, and I think we came up with something good, and that's, that's gonna alleviate the cost to the small business owner.
I think it is I think it's a win-win for everybody.
I want to commend staff because this was not an easy issue, but I do want to commend them. They had to spend a lot of time on it to figure out a way to safeguard PUB's environmental concerns and issues and state regs while at the same time addressing our small business concerns. So I want to commend Albert and everybody else who worked on this. I think we've got a good win-win here.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Ahmada
To approve.
to approve the staff's recommendation.
Second.
Second by Mr. Garcia. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. We go to item 11. I'd like to table this on the request of Board Member Villarreal that was not here with us today. He wants to be here for this.
Table.
We have a motion to table.
Second?
Second by Mr. Sanchez. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next, item 12. Discussion and possible action of surplus generation equipment at Silas Ray Power Plant. I asked this to be put on the agenda because there's been questions by Board Member Sanchez, Mr. Sanchez, about the power plant at Silas Ray with the surplus equipment that we have there. And speaking with Mr. Lara, which is a PUB employee here, he came up with an idea, maybe, and we have it up for action tonight, if the board agrees, which is to put a little plaque on the turbines that they use there, or the generation equipment that we have there, because it is very old. They're not being used; they're being discarded. He had an idea of putting, there's actual pictures of the people that built that plant. And maybe it'd be good to have it like a little museum, because it is historical. It's been there for years. Maybe it's something, I had never that we can give field trips to the BISD, because I know when me and Mr. Sanchez went to go see the Silas Ray, it's very impressive. We thought, it looked like we were inside a spaceship, no, Robert?
Sure, very educational.
So, I think that's something that we do have a lot of old history there, but then when you go into all the computers, it's very impressive. And I'm sure that we do have some kind of field trips.
We do.
That go through there. And this would just, it's not going to cost much. Just a couple of plaques and maybe some pictures that we already have. And I'd like to see if we could include Mr. Lara on this project, since it was, he came forward with the idea. And, those are my thoughts. If you guys have anything to add.
I make the motion to approve this recommendation by the chairman to put plaques on the antique equipment that's not being used for historical purposes, and to appoint Mr. Lara as the committee member of one to come up with a plan with management to best do that.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Ahmad.
Second.
Second by Mr. Garcia. All those in favor?
Aye.
So, Mr. Lara, you the chairman, vice chairman, secretary, and all?
Janitor, both. All right, motion passes. Okay. We go, item number 13. Discussion and possible action on raising the minimum wage to $8 per hour. I also put this on the agenda. I don't know if he's here today, but, the city, and the county have implemented raising the living wage to $8 per hour. And I think it comes down to our level 1, our lower level, or level 4, I'm sorry, you guys are level 1.
You have right now, well, Mr., if I may, you asked about how many employees it would affect.
That's right, yeah.
It currently affects 13 employees. It would affect 4 classes the way they currently are in terms of pay grade. We have 4 level 1, 2, 3, and 4 that have a beginning salary of less than $8.
What is the beginning salary?
The beginning salary, according to the current pay plan, is $6.25.
You know, I'm a strong believer of people have a right to make a living. You know, when you go to a restaurant, you know, it bothers me when people are bad tippers, because those people depend on you to give them a good tip based on the service, because they have a right to make a living. What I see down here, a lot of people are very tightwad about it because they feel like nobody else has the right to make a living but themselves. And that applies to everything. I see people trying to negotiate things like if they were at the Mexican market, you know, and you're not. And some people are satisfied till they get you below cost because they have the mentality that nobody else has a right to make a living except them. And I think that should not be acceptable. And here, for somebody to be making less than the living wage, it's not acceptable to me. Because then, you know, they have to depend on public assistance because they can't make a living. So we pay one way or another. So I would not begrudge anybody to make a decent wage, and $8 is minimal, I think. Should be more. So based on that, I'm for it.
And
I'll make
the question that I had, and the question that Mr. Villarreal had when I spoke to him, he had a question. I mean, he didn't have a problem with it. He just wanted to see how it would affect the budget. And it's being so.
The other issue, and this was raised over at the city, is you're not just talking about those 13, because it's going to potentially impact those above.
Brussels a little bit, but not significant.
So, I mean, the only question would be, and obviously I'm in favor of it, we did it at the city. We need to know what it's going to cost.
Well, one is a couple of things, and we talked with Mr. Valadez called on this, is if you recall, you authorized the staff to go out and look at the salaries again. That you wanted to do a market study. Well, one of the recommendations when we adopted this plan was in 2000. And every year since then, one of the recommendations the consultant says to keep your plan current, you should adjust your plan. Well, we've never done that. And I can tell you that the committee is working on addressing the issue of market salaries. But one of the recommendations the consultants already come back with on this is that you should make an adjustment to your plan equivalent to 12%. That's how much movement has occurred in it. If we were to do that, then it would affect quite a few employees, and it wouldn't just change that one number on the entry of these, but it would make the adjustments accordingly. So what you wouldn't have is perhaps what you're talking about, Mayor, we have compression, where we may have someone who's been here for quite a few years who would be making the same amount of money as someone who would be hired tomorrow under the new wage. Now, that one will require a little bit more work and will require a little bit more of a significant budgetary impact. But that would affect the whole plan. It would align your plan so it would be consistent with, you know, entry level, midpoint, and maximum. And then you would do that. If we were to adopt that recommendation, then it would only affect your level 1 and level 2 employees. But right now we do have 13. The impact on the budget is not going to be significant. The impact on the budget to implement the recommendation of the consultant on adjusting the whole plan would be a bit more significant. You're looking at probably, what, Leon, about $250,000.
We're not ready to bring that back yet.
Well, I think we're getting away from the issue that we're here at hand.
But it does have a bearing on what the mayor is saying, and that is that you are going to have, right now with 13, it doesn't. It might as you move forward. But we would come back later with the broader recommendation on what the recommendations...
Based on the study.
Right.
And we requested that because that was one of the points that I made. Because we want to make sure that people are receiving a comparable wage as compared to others in the industry for doing the same work. But right now, I think we need to correct an injustice, what I see as an injustice, at the bottom end of the scale where these people deserve a living wage of a minimum of $8. I think people should be making $10. myself, but right now we're talking about $8, that's what's recommended. And based on that, it only affects 13 employees. Overall, the budget's not adversely affected. And I think we can afford it, and even though people may say, well, you shouldn't be taking these kind of steps without waiting for the study first. I think that's not the way to do it, because some of these things that we can correct ourselves because we know it's the right thing to do morally. And morally, I feel compelled to support the chairman's, and I commend him for bringing it to the attention. I didn't know there was people making less than $8.
And I can't take credit for it. It's the Father Jerry with Valley Interfaith that he took it upon. That organization went to the county, they went to the city. The mayor.
It came to you, and I appreciate that, because we as board members go out into the community and hear from others, and we're not reinventing the wheel. We're bringing back those things to the board for discussion, and it takes somebody to bring it. You brought it, and I commend you for it.
And
so based on that, I make the motion to approve the increase to $8 an hour as a starting salary for level 1.
Okay, and before we...
We'll adjust it for the levels that are below $8.
Before we make a vote, Pat and Mr. Chairman, I also want to thank Chris for bringing it out and Father Jerry for bringing it forward in the community. On some of those city elections, they go to the Valley Interfaith, and the priest in the house of God has everybody sign a contract, and they asked all the commission members, please get that $8 an hour, and everybody got up there, all the commission candidates, and everybody signed away, and the father said, this is a contract, please abide by it. Well, unfortunately, some of the ones that won aren't abiding by that contract, and I'm not saying you, sir. It's some of the other ones from the May 5th. You're not on this at all. And I would like to second the motion that Pat gave on this $8 per hour minimum wage.
Okay, we have a motion, a second, and nobody signed no contract.
Okay. And we're not doing this because of Valley Interfaith or anybody else. We're doing it because it's morally the right thing to do.
From an information standpoint, just so y'all will know, we have nobody at 625. So even if that's our minimum, we have no employee making that minimum.
And we have employees below 8, so we got to correct that.
Okay. And just to make it clear, I made my comments, and I'm not doing it because of Valley Interfaith. I'm doing it for PUB.
Okay, we had a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. Next item, item 15, we already did item 14. Item 15, discussion of the Brownsville Public Utilities Board elevated water storage tanks.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Norma's passing 2 sheets. On one of them,
This was again a request that Mr. Paul does have.
Yeah, and the reason I did it, because I had a couple of people, just real quick to tell you guys why it's on there. A couple of people asked me why the storage tank on the expressway in Los Ebanos, where the old Coca-Cola plant was, that one went down, and the one on 802, right there before the railroad tracks, or the Ruben Torres now, that one's gone down, and they said, well, are we going to replace them? And I didn't have an answer for them. I didn't know.
okay, well, this gives you a little bit of the history of the tanks. The first sheet gives you the map showing all the existing and demolished tanks and the proposed tank. On the top, you'll see a purple tank. That's the groundwater tank for the Southwest Regional, $7.5 million. And then the aqua or blue color ones are the existing tanks right now. It gives you the location, the number of the tank, and then the capacity of the tank, whether it's 2 million gallons, 500,000, or 1 million. And as you can see, the yellow tanks are the ones that have been demolished, and it also gives you the year when it was demolished. So basically, the way this happened, we have tank number 1. On the second page, it gives you a little bit of the history of the tank. It tells you Gladys Fuller Zoo tank, it was removed. The capacity of that tank was 1 million gallons. It was built in 1951. Basically, what happened there was when it got time to repair the tank, we had to do an analysis whether the tank was still needed or not. The way that the tanks work on the system is they're usually built on the outskirts of the city. By 2001, that tank happened to be right in the middle of the city, so it was not, it was no longer needed on the system. and it was going to cost us a lot more to repair the tank than to actually build the tank later on. So we decided to remove that tank in 2001. Then tank number 2, the expressway tank, was also removed, and that one was built in 1959. It was 1 million gallon capacity, and it was removed in 2000 when it was ready to be repaired. And again, the cost of the tank to be repaired was going to be a lot more than if we actually replaced it. At the time, we did need to replace it because we still had enough elevated capacity on our system. Then tank number 3, which is the 10802 that just recently got removed last year, it was built in 1969, and it was 500,000 gallon capacity. And again, that one was also removed because it happened to be in the middle of the system, and it was no longer needed.
But Gigi, you know, the question is not about so much the removal as the logic behind the removal and not replacing them, which I understand to be is because the distribution is based on gravity. The tanks are being replaced with gravity-driven distribution into the system.
We're replacing it with other lines within the system. Again, the purpose of the tanks is to help with the pressure. Once the tanks happen to be in the middle of the city, they're not helping the system anymore. So the other tanks are helping the system, and we are proposing one tank to make up for some of the removal of the 3 tanks, which is on the east side of town. As you can see on the map, we're proposing a tank on close to FM 1419, close to the port, and that's going to help us with the pressure on that side of town.
Yeah,
And that's
but
the way
you removed the tanks over here in, I guess, the city access, we can call it, okay? And you're proposing a new tank over here way to the east because of water pressure problems, okay? But we understand that, but the question I think that people have is they've noticed that these tanks are going down and nothing is coming up. The reason being is driven by gravity, the distribution, to where we don't need to replace those same tanks.
That's correct. And we're also building bigger tanks, bigger lines that are helping with the pressure in those areas.
So just because I don't see the tanks coming up that you're replacing doesn't mean that we're not.
They're no longer needed.
Yeah.
They're no
They're not
longer.
operating. Basically, they weren't operating, going up and down.
But we're meeting the needs through
That's correct.
a different system that's better.
Yes,
Less
with bigger
maintenance.
lines throughout the system
Bigger
that's
lines,
helping
less-
us with the pressure throughout the city.
So the lines are still through gravity? They're not being pumped?
No.
Sometimes you
Okay.
can.
The
That's
south
one of
most
the
of us were applying
questions.
pressure on the
Yes.
north side, which we didn't have before, and so you have adequate pressure from both sides of town, and the tanks weren't operating like they should if they were on the far end of town, so.
Well, for the purpose of liability, we're better off.
That's right.
For the purpose of maintenance, we're better off.
That's correct.
For the purpose of distribution, we're better off.
Yes,
So it's a win-win situation.
Some would argue for the purposes of that.
aesthetics.
In aesthetics, yeah, definitely. Definitely. Okay, I
Okay.
answered the question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hope that whoever's watching, I hope that answered their questions.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a consent item agenda. Does anybody,
What is the consent?
read the minutes? We have a motion.
I'll move to
We have a motion to approve consent item agendas. The second.
On the, did y'all review the minutes? Did everybody review the minutes?
We have a second, a motion and a second. All those in favor?
All right.
A motion passes. This meeting is adjourned.
We got.
Oh, I'm sorry. We didn't